Hello and welcome to Blender Studio. I am Sudhindra and along with Blender Foundation, we are building learning materials for schools to implement Blender in education. Learning is a process of joy. It will be a joy and celebration when it is driven by curiosity. Building curiosity in children is the key to the best education system, and this is the mission of NEP 2020. The main aim here is that the children should learn every concept of maths and science through activities. So now the challenge is how to build activities to define mathematical formulas, scientific theories, trigonometry, calculus, algebra, etc. How can we build activities for children in these fields? And this is where Blender comes into the picture. So I am now today going to show you an example of how you can use Blender to teach various concepts of algebra and geometry. I will start with a simple line. Whenever we draw a straight line, the straight line is defined by one arithmetic formula, y is equal to mx plus b. Now to understand this, let us come to a site called desmos.com, and in this site, if you come to this graphing calculator, if you click on this line over here, the first definition is lines, and here if I click on open graph, the line is defined by y is equal to mx plus b, and as I change the value of y, you can see the slope of the line is changing and b changes its position along the y axis. Slope is defined by m and b determines its position. So this concept, if you want the children to understand, we are going to now make use of Blender for them to experiment with this. As an example here, I will launch Blender, click somewhere to close the welcome screen, and you have the default cube here. Now just I will resize the bottom panel over here, and I am going to choose geometry node editor here, and I am going to start with a new geometry node. So here I will explain, or as you learn Blender you will know all these features in detail. I am just showing you an example now. So I am going to use input instead of this cube, I am going to use line as an input for this. So now I will press shift plus A and I am going to search for curve line. I will type curve here and you have curve line. So I am going to add curve line here. So the geometry I am going to use will be a curved line. So if you come to the front view, you can see the curved line of it 1 meter along the z axis. This is the line that has been created. So right now the starting point of this line will be 0 0 0, the origin point, but the end point we are going to define using our formula y is equal to mx plus b. How are we going to do it? The first thing is we have to separate this x, y, z. So for this what we are now going to do is I will press shift plus A and I am going to add a node called as combine x, y, z, and I am going to link this to the end. Now what happens is the end vector is divided into x, y, z values separately, and here I am going to link this x value to the output here. So that now what happens is this output, if I come to the group box here, I am going to call this output as the length. So this will be the length of the line that I am going to draw. So if I come to the modifier here and as I increase the length, you can see the length of the line is increasing. So this is going to define the x value, and now the y value is calculated using our formula. So for this what we are now going to do is we are now going to calculate the y. So for this I am going to start by adding a position node. So we are going to define the position, and I am going to make this, in this position I am going to first separate out x, y, z. So we are going to separate x, y, z vectors, and we are going to make these three vectors separate, and after we separate it we are then again going to combine it. Okay, so we are going to separate x, y, z values, we are then going to combine the values, and in this the x value will remain the same, z value will be remain the same. So only the y value we are now going to calculate using the formula, and finally here I am going to press shift A and I am going to add a node called set position. So we are going to finally set the position of this geometry through this combined value. So, I am going to link this to this actual node here. So, when I have drawn, so this is the definition. So, right now there is no change here. So, we are having only the x value because we have not defined y. So, to define y, what we are going to do is, we now first need the first variable m. So, for this what we are now going to do is, I am now going to come over here and press shift plus A, and I am going to add a math node. And in this math node, the first thing is y is equal to m into x. That is, I have to multiply, and I am going to choose the multiply function here, and after I choose the multiply function, one value of this multiplication will be y. We will be getting this value from y, whereas the other value will be the input that we are going to give. I will press shift, right click, and I am going to press G, and I am just going to reframe this so that you can, I will also move this here. So, I will just reframe it so that these connections are right, and this value that I have defined here, I will come to group, and I am going to call this value as m. This is the m value. So, we are multiplying y is equal to m into x. Sorry, this is not y. I have to connect this line to x, not y, because y is equal to m into x. Then the next is I have to add b. For that I am going to, or I will just press shift plus D, and I am going to duplicate this, and after I duplicate it, I am going to choose add here, and the first value will be this multiplication value, and the other value I am going to add one more input here, and I am going to call this value as b. So, now the formula is applied here. Again I will press shift, right click, add a node here, with G I will move it here, and I will add one more shift plus G. I will add a node, and I will just rearrange it so that it is not it is clear here. So, now we have these two, one is m, one is b, and we have this, and finally whatever value we are getting from adding this will be allotted to this y. So, we are going to allot this value to y, and this y value is finally fed over here. So, now once we have this, we have the length, we have m, and we have b, and now we can experiment with different values, and we can see how this y is equal to mx plus b formula is going to work. So, now if I come to the, I will select the line, I will come to the top view by pressing 7 on your number keyboard, and now if I change the m value, you can see the slope is changing. The slope is dependent on the m value, and b determines the position. So, now the child can clearly understand what is y is equal to mx plus b. So, the property of this line is defined by these two variables. M represents the slope and b represents the position along the y axis. So, in this way we can make the child understand how a formula works. So, this is one example that we are presenting today. I will show you 1, 2 or 3 more examples to make this concept clear. So, let us again meet in our next session. Thank you.